And about 3 years ago, China initiated this target for intensity reduction for its economy. And according to our own president, that's the largest energy conservation effort in human history, and would reduce carbon footprint by roughly 1.5 billion CO2s. The bill that's passed the House floor will give us roughly 1.3 billion tons reduction by 2020 for the capped sources. And the European commitment under Kyoto commitment is roughly 300 million tons. In terms of cars, and I recently read an interesting statistics that California consumed roughly 20 billion gallons for gasoline and diesel. And that's roughly 1.3 billion Chinese use today. So here shows one example of how that's achieved. Today, the fuel economy standard in China is roughly 36 miles per gallon, compared to our own target, about 35, to be achieved in 2016. So already China is ahead of us in terms of requiring much more fuel-efficient cars. On top of that, and they have put together several tax policies will heavily favor fuel-efficient vehicles and electric vehicles. If you drive SUV, you had to pay a 40% SUV tax to own that, and that money goes to incentivize electric vehicles as well. There's another program we've been working on for the last few years called the Top 1,000 Industry Program, which work with the 1,000 largest energy users in the Chinese economy. And that program alone is on target to deliver reductions of roughly 245 million tons of CO2 by 2010, compared with roughly 175 million tons in our own historical legislation, AB 32, which is for 2020 as well. So I don't have to go through everything that's happening in China, but the steps taken together indicate, although China has not articulated a complete game plan for a low carbon economy, is moving faster in positioning itself to benefit from the new energy economy that's coming forward today. So I'd like to end my remark there.
Thank you. And Chris, would you
I want to make, which has to do with the key to climate change solutions, is in transformational change. And I think just a few of the things that you're seeing here about China's transformation with energy efficiency, just in this area alone, really show the potential for transformational change. And I'll go through just a little bit and then relate a story that I think is relevant to this. Transformational change has to do with personal transformation, our mental models of climate change, our emotions, and our physical interests related to that. Organizational transformation, how we compete and collaborate when we talk about carbon credits and carbon offsets and all the different horse trading that we're hoping to do over the coming years and decades. How much of this is going to be competed, and how much of this is going to be a new game of total collaboration. Sectoral transformation. How do we relate across sectors? Does our economic policy, do our national and domestic economic policies line up in support of our energy and our industry policies, our water policy and our farm policy? Being a Californian, we could have lots of other conversations about the relationship between energy and water and ag and our lifestyle. International transformation. It is one planet, but we don't have an integrated systems approach to managing the stuff that we need to drink, to bathe, to eat, to breathe, and to build things. And then local transformation. How do we identify and support the greatest levers for transformation at the local level? I think that there are many keys to climate change solutions that include language as a transformational component of the way in which we think and act. Change and transformation are not so far apart. We could have changed from global warming to climate transformation instead of climate change. And the reason that I wanted to introduce this in the panel tonight is a couple of years ago, I went to Beijing to do what we do at the Asia Foundation, which is to work on development and foreign policy interests in the intersection. So I went to Beijing expecting the usual gray skies and the pollution that you read about. And it was as blue as the cloth on this table here. The sky was really, really blue. And this wasn't because of the Beijing Olympics. It was 2 years before the Beijing Olympics. In fact, I think it had to do, it was kind of a technical rehearsal for the Beijing Olympics. The African Summit was taking place. And the African Summit was 26 leaders from 26 countries from Africa were invited to China to talk about investment and development and the kind of cooperation that China could have with the continent of Africa. And so to greet the African leaders, Beijing essentially closed down all of its air polluting infrastructure and pulled a lot of cars off the roads. And so for the first 3 days that I was there, it was blue sky. And then the African delegation went home, and I stayed. And on the fourth day, the gray started. But I did want to tell that story because I think the opportunities are really high for those things, and I'm hoping that the panel and the audience will help us consider some of those.
Thank you, Chris.